So in the past, when I would get overwhelmed, I would normally slip into some unhealthy coping mechanisms. So basically, there's like 3 parts to this formula, okay? Are you kidding? If you're looking at the YouTube right now, you can see. What the fuck? I've been sitting on this pen. Oh my god, bro. Fucking hell, I amaze myself. All right, so welcome back everybody to We Miss the Point. I am so excited to be back. It has been a hot minute. So as I mentioned, it's been about 3 months. Yeah, about 3 months since I went off socials. And because I'm talking about priorities today, by no means am I saying that going off social media is something that you need to do. It is by no means that at all. However, taking that time off, I started to notice that the goals I had, so, start a business or be able to work for myself, be able to start making some more money, all of these things that I wanted to do, the actions that I was taking in my sort of days were not aligned to those goals. So I wasn't prioritizing the right things. And I think it's quite funny because obviously I've shared on the podcast, I've had so many different passion projects, I've tried lots of different things, but it wasn't until I really took the time to think about what was actually going to get me to the next step, that's when these 2 things have come to fruition, which I'm going to dive into a little bit later. So what I'm going to go through today is these 3 sort of fundamental truths that I have come to realize. And I think that without understanding these, or at least for myself personally, I don't think you're able to even know what you want to prioritize, because that was probably my biggest hurdle. Like, I thought that I was prioritizing the right things, but I started to realize that the actions I was taking in my day-to-day wasn't actually a reflection of what I wanted to achieve. I'm also going to share with you this formula, and it's so good. Like, I think I made it up. I've never seen it anywhere before, so I'm claiming it as my own. And if anyone steals it, I'm going to come after you with my lawyer, because I've definitely got a lawyer. So the first one that I'm going to be talking about is that writing is a non-negotiable. And I know I've mentioned this on so many podcasts, but I'm telling you right now that, like, if you are not writing or getting your thoughts out of your head, unless you literally have no thoughts at all, then pop off to you. But you can't have massive, I shouldn't say can't, but I really doubt that you are constantly dreaming and thinking of new things and thinking of ideas if you're not thinking, okay? You know what I mean? The people that this is going to relate to, you're going to be thinking, so you need to start writing if you're not already. So one of the biggest emotional challenges I would say I face is that I get overwhelmed really easily. And so being overwhelmed is pretty much when your brain is full of too many things. So think of it this way. If you've got a cup of water, right, and you start filling it up with water, at some point, you can't put any more water in. It's just going to keep overflowing, right? And that is literally your brain. Like, we are constantly taking in new things from the environment, whether it's through, conversations with a friend or intentionally reading something or listening to a podcast or just walking around and observing things. We are constantly taking in new information. And if we're not dumping that out and getting rid of some of that excess water, or however you want to frame it, you are going to feel overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to think clearly. And now I know that some people might be like, oh, that's just anxiety. And that is completely fine. If you identify this feeling as anxiety, that's fine. It doesn't matter what you identify with. The point is that if you are not writing down your thoughts and you are not dumping out all of the shit that is in your head, you are going to end up overwhelmed and just all over the place, okay? So when you're writing, whether it's in a journal or on a document, it doesn't matter where, you're basically able to really clear out all the shit that's in your head. As I said before, it's like the water. You're able to dump out some of that water so you can start putting some more in. So now you're asking, well, Zoe, how does this come into prioritization? So in the past, when I would get overwhelmed, I would normally slip into some unhealthy coping mechanisms. So whether that was, going out and drinking, or it was, food, whatever it was, I would tend to numb and sort of escape that feeling of overwhelm instead of, writing down and trying to get clear. And this is where priorities comes in, because I was effectively prioritizing food, and I was prioritizing alcohol, and I was prioritizing these numbing and escapism sort of activities over not just my emotional well-being, but I was prioritizing it over other things that were going to get me to my goals. Now, some of you may be listening to this and be like, Zoe, that's not poor prioritization, that's bad habits, or you just need to work on X, Y, and Z, which is very much true. But I think when you frame it in your mind and you really start to think about the fact that every choice that you make that is you prioritizing something over the other. So me choosing to be like, oh, I'm feeling like a bit overwhelmed, and then, you know what, I'm just going to go out with my friends, which isn't exactly how it would happen. But now that I look back and I think about, you know, the eating disorder and things like that was me numbing this constant like overwhelm, right? So being able to identify that and be like, okay, hang on a minute, instead of when I get a really full brain, instead of just numbing that, if I can figure out how to get rid of that feeling, then I'm able to prioritize different things. And I think that like for so long, I knew that I had these goals. I knew I wanted to build something that I was proud of. I knew I wanted to build something, I just said proud of, I've done an episode on that, but I wanted to build something and create X, Y, and Z, but I wasn't prioritizing the right things. The choices that I was making weren't a reflection of the action that I needed to take in order to get me to where I wanted to go. And so I was prioritizing this like short-term release and escaping my overwhelming thoughts and all of that for long-term freedom and clarity. And so it wasn't until I really started writing everything down that I started to see such a big shift in my life. And now I have always sort of done journaling, and I've spoken about that a lot in the past, but from the time that I really went off social media, I was writing like hours every day. And for some people, I don't think that that is necessary at all, but I really enjoy writing. And, you know, looking back now, when I was writing this content and sort of thinking about how I could get back into socials, and not really social media, but just podcasting and chatting, I was starting to get overwhelmed that I didn't have enough content. I didn't have enough things to talk about. But I looked back and I realized how much I'd been writing about, and I now have so many things to talk about. But yeah, so it wasn't until I really started writing things down that I was able to regain that clarity and start to realize like, oh, like this is why I've been doing this, or this is why I've been acting in this way. I started to see these bad habits, and look, I'm not saying that going out and drinking is a bad habit, but this is what I'm going to come back to at the end, whether it's follow these steps or whether you do it in your own way and you start to really prioritize the right things. Until you can take the steps that allows you to get that clarity of mind, you aren't able to prioritize the right things because you don't know what you should be prioritizing. And I say should, but you don't know what's going to be the most beneficial. You know, like for me, going out and drinking, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. But my goals and the things that I wanted to achieve, going out and then being hungover for the next 3 days isn't helping anything. Like, yeah, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not helping me get to where I want to go. And without writing and starting to understand, oh my gosh, like this is where I'm going wrong. You know, it's actually me trying to numb this feeling of overwhelm, when if I just write or I do, you know, the things I'm going to keep talking about, then I'm able to decrease that emotional stress, and I'm able to then figure out, oh, okay, I need to actually be doing this. And once you start getting into a flow, you don't want to be doing the things that aren't going to get you to your goals, obviously. But yeah, so that's the first one. Writing gave me clarity. And at the end of the day, that clarity gave me the ability to learn the skill of prioritization. Without writing, I would not have been able to figure out what it was that I actually needed to do to be able to start taking the steps in the right direction. So the next like truth that I'm going to be talking about is that waiting until you're certain only leads to missed opportunities. Now, over the years, I've tried many different things, from app building to podcasting to social media to writing a book, all of these little things, only to now end up with effectively 2 tech companies or 2 tech startups, however you want to frame it. So you never know where you're sort of going to go, right? Now, some people may sort of listen to this or read this wherever you're watching this on, whether it's the newsletter or the podcast. Some of you may just think, oh, you've got an issue with commitment, or you've got a problem with like perseverance. And you're probably, you could be right. Like, I'm not going to completely doubt the fact that there's not a part of this chopping and changing that does come down to me. It definitely could be down to the ADHD. I don't doubt that for a second. However, the thing that I really want to push, and I know I've said this on other podcasts, is that every single one of these things, whether it was the writing, whether it was the food blocking, whether it was the app, all of it has contributed to where I am today. You know, like every book I read or every podcast I listened to led to me thinking about a new idea. It led to me brainstorming more about that idea and making sense of it myself. And, you know, then every idea led to me searching up someone that knew more about that idea, and then finding someone that could almost mentor me in that area. And then, you know, like every sort of mentor I found in a specific area, then that gave me steps that they had taken to get them to where they were. And like, I think about it this way, like whether you are, I don't know, Andrew Huberman or Margot Robbie, there's one thing that we've all got in common, and it's that we have no idea where our lives are going to go. And like, yeah, now, okay, maybe they've got a bit of an idea, but you best believe when Margot Robbie was young, or when Andrew Huberman was a little boy, or where we are right now, you don't know what's ahead of you. At the end of the day, our future is completely unknown. We can't predict where each step that we take is going to lead us. We've got no idea. It's impossible. But the one thing that I do know is that inaction leads you nowhere. At the end of the day, yes, you're not going to know whether picking up that book and learning that new idea is going to get you anywhere. And you're never going to know whether making your first YouTube video or starting on the basketball team, you never know where that little thing is going to take you, but you best believe that you are ahead of everyone else that doesn't even take that first step. And I think that is something that I know I talk about a lot, and so many people talk about it, but it is the most true thing that you need to get into your head, that if you are not taking the first little step, you will never know what you could have been. You will never know the opportunities that were ahead of you. And this is where the formula is going to come in. So basically, there's like 3 parts to this formula, okay? And now the first 2 I'm going to go through now, and then 1 I'm going to add in at the end. But I kind of want to draw it up, but then this stupid microphone is like in the way. Maybe I can do this. Can you hear me if I talk like this? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Where the fuck is that? I brought a pen here and it was like really, oh no, I got pink. Where the fuck? Oh no. Oh, I've been sitting on it. Oh shit. See, this is what I do. I'm going to show you. If you've been, are you kidding? If you're looking at the YouTube right now, you can see. What the fuck? I've been sitting on this pen. It's probably... Oh my god. Bro. Fucking hell, I amaze myself. Alright, we're putting you down. Hopefully that's right. It's good enough. Okay, so I'm going to write it down. So we've got... I don't like it. I hope you guys are all having a good day. It's fucking beautiful here. If anyone's in Melbourne... you should move to the Gold Coast. Also, how gross is my cold... Oh, fuck, I wrote it too big. Dicks. Okay, so I hate that I've done some of it in capitals and some of it in lowercase. But it's fine. We're fine. Okay, so this is it. Oh, shit. So this is my formula so far. We've got desire plus action equals opportunities. And then we've got action plus opportunities equals reality. So your desire is sort of, your dreams, your goals, the vision you have for your life, all of that sort of stuff. Action is, the steps that you're going to take in your life, makes sense. And then opportunities is sort of the opportunities that exist around you. Okay. Now notice that action is in here twice. The reason for that is that it basically plays double the role in your the end of the formula. So I want you to think about it this way. If you've got like a vision or a goal, which is your desires, but you don't take any action, you're not going to have that many opportunities, right? And now here, if once again you don't take much action and you don't have many opportunities, then your reality isn't going to look all that successful, right? Now, once again, let's say that you've got a massive dream and you're taking a lot of action and you're really like putting in the work, you are going to have a lot more opportunities, right? Now, if you're once again putting in a lot of action, you're putting in a lot of work and doing other things and you've got a lot of opportunities, then your reality is going to look really, really good. Now, I want you to think of opportunities as like perceived opportunities, because this is where it also comes into play that if you are like working really hard, but maybe you don't have that much of a goal set, you're not like clear on what you want to do, you aren't going to actually see as many opportunities because you're not as aware of them. Because at the end of the day, opportunities are all around you, whether it's going to a seminar or joining a Facebook group or reaching out to someone about a question you've got. They're terrible little examples, but I think the point is that if you're not taking the little steps, you don't have as much opportunity, right? And once again, if you're not taking much action and you don't have as many opportunities or perceived opportunities, your reality is going to look shit, right? But if you have a massive goal, and you're taking the action, you are going to have so many more opportunities or see so many more opportunities around you. And then your reality is going to look like you've got so many more opportunities. Okay. Now, like, I think about it in my life. I often have really big goals, right? But if I'm not taking the right action and I'm not putting in the work, it's so easy to sort of be like, oh my God, everything around me sort of looks shit. So that sort of like brings me back to the original point that I said, the more action you take, the more opportunities you're going to have around you. And then in turn, the more likely you are to achieve your goals. And so that is why the second truth was that waiting until you're certain only leads to missed opportunities, because there are so many different opportunities around you. But if you're not taking the steps to open your eyes and to really put yourself into new situations, you actually don't perceive those situations. If you're not challenging your views and opening your mindset up, you're unable to see the opportunities that are around you, because they are all around you. To even think about like how these 2 startups that I've got going even eventuated. Like, if I didn't reach out to various people and if I didn't put myself into uncomfortable situations, I never would have gotten to where I am. And so this brings me on to the third fundamental truth, or I'm just going to call it a fact, because this one is, I personally, like, I do not see how you can argue with this. And if you can, please reach out, because I would love to genuinely hear the opposition to what I'm saying, because I really would love to hear how someone can think that like your mindset and your perspective doesn't shape your reality, or like not even reality, but doesn't shape your life. Because at the end of the day, the way that you see a situation is like totally based off your experiences and the things you've been through and your beliefs. But because of that, if you're not aware of the way that you're thinking and you're not aware of the choices you're making based off your own perception, there's every likelihood that you are going to be missing opportunities, because you're not able to see the world from not just your lens. You've got to be able to look at the world from different perspectives. And so basically the final part of this formula is, drum roll, actually let me write it in. This is terrible. I'm so sorry that it's written like that, but basically it's that reality minus, I love that some of it's in capitals and some of it isn't. It's actually disgusting. But reality minus expectations equals happiness, okay? So remember here that we had that the actions you're taking, so the steps that you're taking, plus opportunities that are perceived around you and that are around you, because luck definitely comes into it, which I should have mentioned before. But, you know, the opportunities that are around you are not going to be the same for every single person. And I think that like a lot of success in business does come down to luck. But then at the same time, you don't want to just be like, oh, they just got lucky, because it's not that at all. But luck does come into it in terms of opportunities. So action plus the opportunities that are around you equals your reality. But we've got to remember that your reality isn't everything, right? At the end of the day, happiness is where we want to go, or like fulfillment, whatever, substitute any word you want, success, whatever. So your reality minus your expectations, which I think people talk about a lot, but like reality minus expectations equals happiness. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that if you don't have your expectations in check, you are going to run into some trouble. Now, I personally have quite high expectations for myself and also for situations and the people around me. And I find that very often, or at least in the past, it's something that I'm definitely working on now, is that I tend to go into situations expecting a certain thing. And when it doesn't go to plan, even if it's not a bad outcome, I tend to get quite anxious or overwhelmed or just not content. Because when you have those high expectations, it kind of takes away your power. Because if you look here, like, as I said, if you've got a massive goal and you're taking action and you've got lots of opportunities, and then, you know, you're taking more action and you've got lots of opportunities and your reality's good. But if your reality is like here, or like maybe a 7, but your expectations were that it needs to be an 8 or a 9, your happiness is lost. Look, I think it is a good way of explaining it, but maybe it just needs some work on the way that I've explained that maybe isn't as good as I was hoping, but I think it makes sense. At the end of the day, if your goal is a 7, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7, and then your action is a 5 or a 6 or a 7, you're taking a bit of action. So, you know, you perceive quite a few opportunities around you. And so then you're taking, you know, as I said, about a 6 action, and then you've got some opportunities. So your reality is pretty good, right? Now, if your expectations are only like, yeah, like, you know, it's a 5, like, I don't really care, like, I'm not expecting anything crazy, then you are going to feel really, really happy, okay? But if someone in the same situation was expecting that they were going to, be even more successful or have even more opportunities or be at, already at this place, they're not going to be as happy. And this is something that I fall into quite often because I do set quite high expectations on myself, that I can fall into this trap. You kind of like miss out on just the enjoyment of the present moment. And I think at the end of the day, expectations often lead to disappointment, and it kind of strips you of the opportunity to feel grateful for the situation and to feel gratitude and to be grateful for the situations that you're in and really be present in that moment. I think of expectations as almost projections into the future. You're sort of expecting things to happen. You're like, it should happen or it will happen, rather than just sort of going with the flow and just seeing where things go, rather than putting these harsh expectations onto a certain situation. And the reason why this is detrimental is because if you've got these really high expectations of how something's going to turn out, you have these like blinders on and you're unable to then see new opportunities or maybe take a different path that you weren't expecting. So by projecting these expectations of the future into your life, you're almost limiting yourself to this like predictable future that you've sort of carved out in your head, which is not beneficial at all. Like as I said before, with the sort of path that I've taken now, if I had been like, no, I have to do this and I've got the blinkers on and I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I never would have gotten to where I am today. And like, who knows where I'm going to go? I'm super open to God knows wherever I end up. But I just know that if I keep taking little actions, eventually I'm going to learn the skills. Eventually I'm going to keep progressing as a person and get to sort of where I want to go, or not want to go because I don't know where I want to go yet. Even if you're listening to this and it's not business related or goal related, even if it's with friends, if you are expecting your friend to like do something or act in a certain way and then they act in a different way, it can take away from that present moment of maybe they were actually doing something else that was super amazing and super kind and super generous, but because it wasn't exactly what you expected, you're kind of let down and you're disappointed and you're not grateful. And this is why getting your mindset right and really being open to new situations and not just having these like harsh expectations on the way things should go is going to make such a difference in your life if you can really monitor that and try and flip situations and be open to new opportunities and take action and just be comfortable in the fact that you're not really sure of where you're going to go. And so as I was talking about before, when I feel overwhelmed, I'm not able to prioritize things. But on top of that, when I've got these really big expectations on how I expect things to go, I'm not opening my mind up to new possibilities. I'm shutting myself off. And this is ultimately where you can sort of fall into the trap of prioritizing the wrong things. So now I'm just going to share a couple of things that I found really help me like optimize that formula and really try and like navigate prioritizing the right things and managing feelings of overwhelm. So the first thing is write everything down, okay? Even if it's once a day, twice a day, however often you need, get a piece of paper, get a blank document and just write down all of the things that are on your mind, okay? Complete brain dump. The second thing is that you're then going to go through that list with a highlighter or whatever's easier for you, and just highlight like 3 things that you need to do that are like top priority. And then the third thing is that once you've got these 3 or 4 things down that are the top priority, do it. Take the action, even if you're not sure exactly how to do that thing, depending what it is. If it's clean your fucking room, you know how to do that. But take it step by step. Just do the thing and you'll find that you fall into a bit of a flow and you can just start getting things done. Fourth part of this is that you need to drop the expectations. So no matter what it is you're doing, whether it's starting the uni assignment or whether it's making your first YouTube channel or whatever it is, drop the expectations, okay? You need to go into this not having these preconceived ideas of how it's going to work out, because as I said above, you're just limiting yourself. You're going to miss out on opportunities and it's just a bad idea, okay? And then the fifth one is that you have to track your progress. This is something that I wouldn't say that I never did, but I definitely didn't prioritize. And it's really monitoring what you're doing, because at the end of the day, even though you can't know where you're going to go, you can monitor your progress and you can become aware of what action you are taking and whether you're seeing any sort of progression. So for me, writing things down, I started to realize I wasn't prioritizing the right things. And so then I had to take steps in order to figure out what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve, and then start taking action, as I said, in these steps. But if you're not then tracking and taking note of how those actions are actually helping you reach your goal, then like, what's the point? You've missed the point because you could be going in a completely wrong direction. I think it's really important to just remember that even though, as I said, you're not going to know where you're meant to go, you do need to make sure that you're somewhat making progress. And that doesn't need to mean that you're making really fast progress and you're seeing massive results, but you do want to be keeping track of whether it's your mindset, or that could be, what's worked well, what didn't work well, how could I use my time better tomorrow, or what was a really good use of my time. And by working through those steps consistently, you're really just going to start to notice that you become a lot more clear and you have a lot more clarity on the things that are important to you and the sort of things that are helping you get to where you want to go. And at the end of the day, once you start prioritizing the things that matter to you most and you really understand those things, you will be happier. And that's not to say that you're going to be happy all the time, because a lot of these things might be uncomfortable and they might put you in a situation that's out of your comfort zone. But as a whole, you will feel more happy because you're making progress and you're seeing that, the hard work is paying off. I already feel so much better having talked about all of this. And even though I was so overwhelmed with starting and I didn't know what I was going to talk about, and I felt it's been so long since I podcasted, but having just I wrote all of this down sort of before because I'm going to put this into a blog. That's another thing. If you are still listening to this, which I'm sure you are, I am going to start doing a newsletter once a week and just sort of write everything down and then make a podcast from that and make some little shorts and stuff. So the branding sort of changed as well with all of this. It's not going to be as much coconut. It's going to be Zoe Ag, and then We Miss a Point's the podcast, and then we're going to have the website and you can go in there and all of that stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, I really hope that you guys have gotten something from this. And I urge you now that if you're kind of that wherever you are right now, just pause and have a think about the things that you want to achieve. Have a think about that big goal that you've got. Or even if you don't have a goal, if you're listening to this and I don't have any sort of interest in anything, which I kind of doubt that you've gotten this far if you don't have a goal. But really just think about what you're telling yourself and just have a think about where you could take more action, or think about, where you're at right now. Could you have lower expectations? Could you start to really be reframing your mindset around any situation, even if it's with friends? Are you putting too much expectation on the people around you and sort of taking away your power, and then, maybe getting angry with them or holding resentment because they're not living up to your standards? This stuff can be related to a lot of different things. And I urge you guys to just take a moment and have a think. Where can you take more action? Where can you lower your expectations? Where can you maybe open yourself up to new opportunities and take a step that maybe is a bit uncomfortable and is a bit out of your comfort zone? I have also made a bit of a list, which I'm going to link on, I'm not sure, probably on the end of the newsletter, just a link, and I might put it on the website as well, of just some questions that I ask myself normally before bed. Look, I do forget some nights, but it kind of comes back to the writing thing of just having a think about what you could be doing better, and also what you are doing and what is working well, because when you keep track of those things, you notice very, very quickly what's working and what's not. But yeah, that's kind of it, guys. Honestly, that went really well. I hope. Obviously, I haven't edited it yet. But yeah. That's sort of everything. I'm going to do another one now, I think, as well, and it's going to be on self-doubt, because, a massive piece of what I'm doing at the moment is really out of my comfort zone, and it's been really scary, and I almost completely fucked it up the other day. I almost pulled the pin because I was just too overwhelmed, and I kind of realized that I was just, we're going to go into it next one. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day, amazing night, whatever, wherever you are, and keep up to date with everything, because this is about to pop off. We're taking this to a new level, and it's no longer just little girl Zoe. We're doing this, and we're going for it. So join the journey and let's go.